Hello, how are you? What's really good? OXSF84 here to put you on more science fiction. Today, we gotta talk about Ken Liu's new joint, The Hidden Girl, and other stories. Ken Liu is an American, Chinese-born author, editor, translator of sci-fi and fantasy who made quite a name for himself as a prolific writer of short fiction before popping off in 2015 with his debut fantasy series, The Grace of Kings, kicking off his Dandelion Dynasty saga, a new genre Liu himself coined as silk punk, which is a technology aesthetic rooted in the mythology of East Asian antiquity. Dudes flying around on kites, airships, silken sails, shape-shifting gods, etc. And while The Grace of Kings was met with lukewarm reviews, I think the sense of it is that it's good, not particularly incredible. It nevertheless laid the groundwork for an artist looking to challenge the, let's be honest, Eurocentric milieu that is the fantasy genre. My brother. But Liu's fiction writing aside, he's also an accomplished translator. From 2016's Invisible Planets, which is a super dope collection of short fiction featuring writers exclusively from China, which really gave us access to a type of storytelling that we never had really been exposed to before, to the monumental Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy by Zixin Liu. The first novel, The Three-Body Problem, was actually the first Asian novel to pick up a Hugo Award. It's this series, this saga, this journey, literary journey, is probably one of the greatest works of sci-fi in the last 10 years. Easily. Don't at me. If you haven't checked out Three-Body Problem, please do yourself a favor and pick up that book. But in terms of personal success, it had always been evident that Liu always felt most at home in the short fiction medium, picking up multiple Hugo and Nebula Awards for stories you could find in his 2016 collection, The Paper Menagerie, a book that consolidated Liu's backlog of short works and gave people a holistic view into his imaginative landscape, really putting him on the map as one of the greatest sci-fi minds of the 2010s. So it's no surprise that his new collection would be met with a decent amount of anticipation. The Hidden Girl moves many steps forward from his previous works, while still giving us stories really rooted in that human experience that Liu loves so much. From stories probing the ethics of creating AI to the future of cryptocurrency, all while exploring themes of race, the importance of heritage, the value of cherishing history, culture, family, what have you. In the preface, Liu begins things kind of waxing philosophic about the psychological alchemy of reading, the role of consciousness, and personal experience when approaching a work of fiction. Not a particularly groundbreaking preface, but it nevertheless greases the wheels for what you can expect in much of Liu's writing. Liu starts this collection off with a story called Ghost Days, which is a story that kind of spans across millennia, charting the journey of a Chinese heirloom from the 20th century to the 24th century. Kind of has a modernist take on the importance of remembering the past, cherishing history, and the importance of, racial identity. Next, we get Maxwell's Demon, which in retrospect is actually one of the stronger stories in the collection. It's set in World War II Japan, and it sort of fuses concepts of quantum theory with the tradition of spiritual mediums in Okinawa, Japan. Really a well-researched story that ends up telling a powerful tale of a woman's struggle for identity in a world in which she no longer has control. A few stories later, we get a story called Thoughts and Prayers, which unfolds like an episode of Black Mirror. It kind of explores the phenomenon and the future of internet trolling, but also the politics of publicizing human tragedy and our tendency as humans to use technology to mitigate our suffering, but also how easily that same technology can exploit our vulnerabilities. Pretty unique story. I'd say that one's pretty good too. Across the collection, there are a handful of stories that kind of all together represent a larger, more cohesive narrative. It starts with The Gods Will Not Be Chained, then Staying Behind, then The Gods Will Not Be Slain, All Together Elsewhere, Vast Herds of Reindeer, I think that's the title, and The Gods Have Not Died in Vain. A few other stories are kind of loosely connected in what kind of serves as a collection within the collection. The stories explore concepts of family, the future of human evolution, the ominous impending singularity, which I wish I had time to get into, but I don't know. Go Google the singularity. It's wild. In any case, the story kind of gives you a San Junipero vibe, if you're familiar with the Black Mirror episode. Although the stories came out before that San Junipero episode, I'm actually surprised no one's made that connection. I wouldn't be surprised if Liu's stories directly influenced the writing of San Junipero. But anyway, the Singularity arc leaves a large footprint in remembering the collection as a whole. It is one of the stronger stories inside the book. Overall, it's a great series of vignettes that kind of explore what humans might experience crossing over into the next level of human evolution, if you believe it will be the Singularity. But this arc also brings up some of the collection's weak points as well. Because the Singularity arc has so much weight, other stories kind of find their way clumsily in between. Stories like Real Artists, for example, or an excerpt from the next installment of Dandelion Dynasty, which, if I'm being honest, didn't do much in the way of thematically adding to the body of work presented here, and it didn't really excite me for the next Dandelion book. Good thing this is just a sci-fi channel. That being said, The Hidden Girl suffers mostly from its length, clocking in at a cool 411 pages. The collection packs in more than it really needs to. While none of the stories are outright terrible, I feel like a much stronger collection is here if you were to remove 4 or 5 of the stories. But that's not to say that the collection isn't worth reading. The title story, for example, The Hidden Girl, really showcases Liu's ability to synthesize the ancient and the futuristic. I don't want to give away too much, but multi-dimensional assassins in 8th century China. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's... yes. Overall, The Hidden Girl and Other Stories brings Liu's fantasy and sci-fi stylings into the current climate of scientific philosophy and discussion, and I suspect his future work will follow suit. While this particular collection doesn't represent Liu's best, it is nevertheless part of a bibliography bringing some of the most innovative and true-to-form storytelling in the genre today. But what did you think? The discussion begins in the comments below. Drop your brief or lengthy takes for my reading pleasure. And if you're looking for more science fiction reviews, literature, and discussion, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep reading. Thank you.